So, Matt, I'd like to close out talking about who is most undoubtedly the most decorated wrestler in the history of the NCAA, and that is
who probably will always be the most decorated wrestler of the NCAA.
Because of the COVID situation, they were granted a 5th year of eligibility, and a lot of them took advantage for a 5th year. And so we saw that there were some wrestlers who ended up becoming a 5-time NAIA All-Americans. You had Miles Amin, if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Yeah, but let's be honest. How many 5-time world champion or 5-time national champions are there as a result of that?
Well, it could depend, because you got Yanni Diakomalis. I'm not sure if he's got it or not, but he won his 3rd title. Before, the 2020 championships, I think. And then I think when they brought it back, last year, right? And he won that, and then he won his 3rd title this year. So theoretically, he's got one more year. But if he has a COVID year, he could try to come back and win a 5th title. Now, I don't know the status of that. I do know that Roman Bravo Young, 2-time national champion for Penn State, he announced recently on his social media that he's going to be coming back next year. So he is going to come out to try and become a 5-time D1 All-American, 3-time champion for Penn State. So, you've got guys that are going to try and come out to do that. So, yeah, I'd be really interested if an extra year, if he comes out and let's say that he, is successful and wins next year. If he has an extra year, is he going to try and come back and do it to become a 5-time NCAA national champion? Which now leads us into and again, this is probably the only wrestler that will have achieved this. It probably won't happen again because of current NCAA rules. Mr. Carlton Hasselrig, who was a wrestler out of Pittsburgh, Johnstown from Pennsylvania, and he is the only 6-time NCAA champion to date. And how he became a 6-time NCAA champion was based on rules that NCAA had during his time, and just to kind of give everyone a perspective of Mr. Carlton Hasselrig. So let me go to when he was. I'll go ahead, Matthew, and screen share when Carlton Hasselrig was inducted into the Pitt Johnstown Hall of Fame. So let's see. Go ahead and screen share this. So Carlton Hasselrig, he was a 3-time NCAA D2 champion. And at the time that he was wrestling, he wrestled for Pitt Johnstown back in the 80s. in the mid to late 80s. And at that time, the NCAA had a thing where they would let the NCAA D2 and D3 champions wrestle at the D1 championships. And just so happened that Carlton Hasselrig, the 3 years he wrestled at the D1 championship, I have to say that it's a feat that will not be it will not be repeated.
John, I think you need to repeat that. There was some issues.
Okay. So where did I cut off at?
You mentioned that he the criteria.
Okay. So let me see here. Okay. So yeah. Can you see the page, man?
Yep.
Okay. So at the time that Carlton Hasselrig was wrestling, he was the NCAA allowed D2 and D3 champions to wrestle at the D1 championships. And my guess is they did not have a person like Carlton Hasselrig come through before. You probably had, some people that would, probably qualify as, they get to be All-Americans and such. But it sounds like there was no one that was as dominant as Carlton Hasselrig. And so he ended up, from what I'm seeing, he never lost in his Hall of Fame entry here at Pitt Johnstown. He never lost at the D1 tournament, and he never lost or tied a D2 opponent. So my guess is, he had a record at Pitt Johnstown of 143-2-1, meaning that he probably, at some of the collegiate tournaments that he would wrestle at, he probably did have some losses, obviously. But I think here's the other thing that was just so dominant about him. In high school, he hit the high school that he attended did not have a wrestling team. And so he had to wrestle freestyle during summer, like it says, because there was no high school program available to him. But it looks like there were some Good Samaritans who petitioned, his school district board, his school board to allow Carlton Hasselrig to represent Johnstown High School as an independent, and he ended up winning the Pennsylvania AAA state heavyweight title his senior year. So some other things that I read about is that he actually did go to Lock Haven University, which Matthew, as we know, Lock Haven is a school that participates in D1 wrestling, I believe, for the MAC. So he was actually trying to do football at Lock Haven, but an injury prevented him from going further in his career there. So he transferred to Pitt Johnstown, which was the local college for him where he lived. And then it just things went from there. He goes out, he wins the D2 championship, and then 3 years in a row he wins a D1 championship to become the only 6-time NCAA wrestling champion.
So the reason why he didn't wrestle his freshman year was because he was doing football and he got injured.
Right.
And then, but then after that, he makes lemons out of lemonade and goes on this tear.
So you gotta think about that. The fact that he was a guy who had, you have to think about it, minimal wrestling experience.
Well, also, are you reading?
Very athletic.
Yeah. Are you reading what he did after he wrestled in the NCAA championships?
You mean about the part where he got drafted?
Yeah. It's like after that
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
he got
it's like, what's his name?
Yeah, 12th round draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, went on to be selected as a Pro Bowl offensive lineman without ever playing college football. Currently training and managing mixed martial arts fighters and wrestlers at Cold Steel MMA and wrestling in Johnstown.
So I just.
But yeah, you were mentioning Stephen Neal, who wrestled at Cal State Bakersfield, world champion, never did football in college, and played with the New England Patriots, won several Super Bowls. His relationship with Tom Brady is what helped save the Bakersfield wrestling team when they were going to cut it.
So yeah, I think that's just so I think you have to think about there are some very talented people.
And he's one of them. I mean, the fact that it's like you were talking about, very minimal wrestling experience, and he goes out there, wins a state championship his senior year, gets injured out of football, and then he goes and wrestles and wins the national championships on both levels 3 years in a row.
I mean, to get injured and then come back and wrestle is one thing, but to get injured and not just win one national title, but to win two in a matter of weeks, because the way that things are right now, the D2 championships are like a week or two before the D1 championships.
So in theory, you could reinstate it in that rule and allow guys to wrestle.
I mean, so yeah, it was because of Carlton Hasselrig going out and winning the those titles. The NCAA discontinued having D2 and D3 wrestlers competing at the D1 championships. I think that was just that was
out of embarrassment.
Kind of makes me wonder if maybe some of those wrestlers were from Iowa or from Oklahoma State.
Probably.
So, unfortunately, Mr. Hasselrig passed away. It looks like a couple years ago. If I'm let me see here. Yeah, he passed away in July of 2020.
54.
Natural causes.
Define natural causes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, with that being said, though, I think just his dominance and stuff, I think, is one that is most definitely has to be respected, and just the fact that he went out to go win, 6 national championships in the way that he did, and definitely a pioneer for many people to come. But Matthew, I think it's just you have to give it up for this man who really
liver disease.
Yeah. I mean, but hey, man, this is just a one man army when you think about it, In how he wrestled. I mean, I'm sure that obviously he had aspirations for football, but he earned his place in history, not in the way that I'm sure he thought he wanted to go, but definitely.
They should make a movie about this. They should make a movie about this guy.
Yeah, if they're gonna make a movie, they should make a movie about Carlton Hasselrig.
It's like you think. It's
I
like
mean, hey,
you think about the great you think about the greatest wrestlers in the sport. You don't hear about this guy. You know, it's like you hear about Gable. You think about
No,
you hear about Gable. You hear about Kale. You hear about Dan Hodge. You don't hear about this guy. Like what?
Hey, USA Wrestling.
Like what?
USA Wrestling. Here's your movie. Here's your movie script right here. Carlton Hasselrig. You know, instead of making a movie about Fox. What is that? Foxcatcher is all fine and dandy, but hey, how about making a movie about this guy? You know, Carlton Hasselrig.
Yeah, you talk about biopics. It's like, let's do this guy. And it's and you know, in that bio it said that he gave back to the community. It's like, you know, he went out and did that, and then he came back and he was, it's like to the end he was helping out his community.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this was a man who truly gave back. This isn't. It's like, yeah, this man is.
Anyway, so that goes without being said.